So taking a look at the markets, I'm seeing a sea of red in the crypto exchanges here. So is this because of the central bank hawkishness that we've seen this week?
I mean, we've been talking about the Fed meeting all week, and obviously the decision came out on Wednesday, and then yesterday we had the BOE with their surprise interest rate hikes, and the ECB also accelerating its tapering. I think today is just kind of a slow day in the crypto markets. It's sort of the last Friday before the last 2 weeks of the year. It's kind of a light day. Even yesterday, it looked like volumes were pretty low, and the day before that. So, it could be that there are certain things people are trading on. There's this Evergrande default that people are talking about of the Chinese real estate developer, and but yeah, the Fed pivot, Jay Powell, as people call Jerome Powell. Now people are calling him Jay Hawk. But that whole spirit is sort of a cloud over the market for sure.
Right. I did see that Evergrande was officially downgraded to default according to S&P Global, and that's weighing down on traditional markets. Is there a correlation between traditional markets and crypto in this case?
There's always some kind of correlation. Typically, there is a slight positive correlation between stocks and Bitcoin. And people talk about how the market has changed as more institutional investors get in who have kind of, feet in both sides, the digital asset markets and then the traditional markets. And so they may be kind of managing a portfolio on both sides. And so all of a sudden there's linkages. You sell one thing on one side, you buy something on the other, or you have a margin call on one side, you got to sell what's winning, which might be crypto. So we do see these, yes is the answer. It looks like Bitcoin is somewhat correlated.
Where do you see support and resistance, Brad?
Well, one thing that we can say is that this $47,000 level, and we're just kind of right on top of it right now, is a key level that people are watching. It's sort of, if you're up, if you're above that, you're up. If you're below that, you're down. It's not only the 200-day moving price average, it's also the 50-week price average. And so people are saying, if we're above that 47K, we may trade up to 53K, or if we're below 47, we may trade down to 40.
All right. Well, there are some silver linings with Bitcoin, some bullish signals to take into consideration in the future, and that is that Bitcoin has minted 90% of all Bitcoins that will ever be mined, according to blockchain.com. Christy, what's the significance of this?
I think it's really interesting to notice this at a time when we are talking about governments printing money left, right, and center, because Bitcoin has its own issuance that is hard-coded into its programming. And so a certain number of Bitcoins are released every 10 minutes to the miners who find the next block and put all the transactions into that block and add it to the blockchain. So thus far, over the life of Bitcoin, 90% of all Bitcoin that's going to ever be mined has now hit circulation. That's not to say that all of the Bitcoins that have been mined will actually circulate. In fact, we're looking at about 3.7 million of the total 21 million that will ever be mined. 3.7 million Bitcoin have probably been lost, or at least are very, very unlikely to ever move. So those coins will never actually be part of the circulation, quite possibly. So we're looking at fewer than 21 million Bitcoins ever being mined. Right now, as I say, we're at 90%. We're not even going to see the final Bitcoin happen until the year 2140. And that's because every 4 years we have a halving in which every block reward it will be half of what it was the previous 4 years. So right now we're at 6.25 Bitcoins per block, 6.25 Bitcoins being released every roughly 10 minutes. And that's going to go down to 3.125. And then that'll get cut in half in 4 years after that. So that is the steady, predictable supply of Bitcoin that will never be messed with and will not be randomly printed the way that we do our dollars.
Christy, am I right in understanding that 21 million Bitcoin will never actually be reached? It'll always be a fraction, and that will continue halving into infinity. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, but it will be to the point where it will be so negligible that, I mean, it's essentially gone. It's done. At which point the miners will be collecting transaction fees instead of block rewards. And that's going to be an interesting economic model to see how that pans out in the long run.